So, John, can you tell us, please, first, you've assembled this nonpartisan, fantastic team of 30 journalists who are investigating electoral irregularities all over the country. What's the latest?
Yeah, we have a really great process. It's a tedious process. It takes time. But what we're doing is we've used computer analysis to identify almost 800,000 votes in the key battleground states of Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Nevada, and Arizona. And what we're doing, how did we identify them as high risk? These are people that are shown as having voted in those states, but they filed a request to change address and leave those states a year or more ago. And so we've come up with that full list through computer analysis. Then we began the process of calling each of these persons and say, listen, you're listed as voting in Georgia or Wisconsin or Michigan, but it looks like you moved. Did you vote in Michigan, in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania? And there are a lot of people, not all of them, but a lot of people say, I didn't vote. I didn't request that ballot. I know nothing about this. So we're in that process. We've got a long way to go before we come up with numbers. But the early process is working well, and we're beginning to identify people who do not appear to have voted, even though they're listed as voting.
Very good. And John, tell us about, there's a couple of key stories that are trending right now at justthenews.com. You know, one of those stories says that there are anti-Trump activists who are doing what some have called looking at actually blacklisting people who are Trump supporters. Tell us what's happening there, please.
It's pretty remarkable, Eric, that we live in an area. You just heard Joe Biden talk about he doesn't want to see negativity. He wants to see unity in America. It's time to set aside our differences and work together for one country. And then you see large numbers of supporters suggesting that they're going to target anyone that has anything to do with President Trump, whether they worked for him, supported for him, donated for him, wrote or did television ads for him. It's exactly opposite of what the Joe Biden message is to the American people at this moment. Everybody from the Lincoln Project, which is a group of Republicans that sided with Biden, to even some members of Congress are making suggestions that they're going to have an enemies list. That's the most un-American of things that we can imagine, and there's no place for it in the middle of this time in our history when we're fighting COVID and foreign threats. But unfortunately, too many, or at least several, of Joe Biden's supporters are talking that way right now.
Awesome. And John, another story that a lot of your readers have been clicking on, have been commenting on, have been asking about, is this story about Kayleigh McEnany, who came out and recently predicted that this was going to go all the way to the Supreme Court. Again, please give our viewers what's the latest on that.
Well, yeah, Kayleigh McEnany was knocked off of Fox News when she tried to explain why she was thought these cases would make it to the Supreme Court. Here's what I've been doing all day today. I went through 4 or 5 different lawsuits in different states, and I didn't look at the claims in the lawsuit. I went to the underlying evidence. And what is that underlying evidence? More than a dozen, about 2 dozen everyday Americans have sworn under penalty of perjury that they witnessed systemic, widespread election fraud. And I'll just give you one great example because it's so compelling. There's a woman named Jessie Jacob. She has been a Detroit City employee for decades. She's one of their longer serving employees. She was assigned to the election in Detroit starting in September, and she testifies that the day after the election, she states this in an affidavit under penalty of perjury, risking her job, risking going to prison if, God forbid, she was lying. And she says the day after the election, she participated, along with many other workers, in processing thousands of absentee ballots that had come in beyond the deadline, but were backdated and changed to make it look like they had come in before Election Day. She also testifies that she saw other widespread irregularities in the 2 and 3 and 4 weeks leading up to the election, where city election workers would give her instructions, give her colleagues instructions, how to alter ballots, how to count ballots, how to manipulate ballots that came in. Let's say someone came in and their name wasn't on the official voter roll. They would go in and change the voter roll to make it look like they were an official voter, then count the ballot. That's the stuff that's in these affidavits. These are real Americans. A former assistant attorney general from Michigan, Jessie Jacob, a city worker, many poll watchers that were there, all describing identical behavior in the city of Detroit. And we're not talking about a few ballots, a couple hundred ballots. They're talking about thousands of ballots, a number of ballots that could change the outcome of a very tight race.
Well, and John, one of the things that a lot of people have commented on, and these are coming from Real America's Voice viewers, it's also coming, I know, from a lot of JustTheNews.com readers. People are asking about not only what might happen in court, but they're also asking about this idea of recounting. People have sent their ballots in, and a lot of Americans feel like, look, if there was some problem, we know that there were computer glitches in Antrim County, Michigan. We know that that software was fairly widespread. A lot of people are saying, why don't we just recount by hand? And one of the stories that you have at justthenews.com is talking about how it sounds like that's going to happen in Georgia. Please give us the latest there.
Yeah, today, very important development in Georgia. The Secretary of State, often criticized by his Republican Party the last few days, announced that they are going to do a recount by hand. Why is that important? It means every ballot will be inspected, most likely with a Democrat and Republican in observation. It will be compared against signatures. It will be compared against proven voter rolls. And it will allow or skip over the possibility that a machine made a mistake or that a clerk inverted numbers. Every ballot will be re-examined, almost as though we're starting Election Day over in Georgia. A very significant development, a time-consuming development, but it's the sort of thing exactly that the Trump campaign particularly was looking to have happen in Georgia. And if in Atlanta, in Fulton County, if we see anything similar to the behavior that some of these election workers and election observers are describing in Detroit, we could potentially see a change in the number of votes that are actually deemed legal, lawful, proper to count. So that's why that hand count in Georgia has become such a significant story today all across America.